Brought to you by DeskReadyLeads.com. If your dealership is tired of leads with no context, no intent, and no real reason to buy, it may be time for a different approach. Visit DeskReadyLeads.com to see how we can help your dealership generate better conversations with buyers who actually have a reason to engage.
You know, it's funny how that works.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So usually when you pull a piece of mail out of your mailbox and you see the word urgent just stamped across the front in that thick red lettering, your heart instantly sinks.
Oh, totally.
It feels like a summons or, I don't know, a massive bill you just completely forgot to pay.
Yeah, panic sets in immediately.
Exactly. But most of the time, it's actually just that official notice from an automaker telling you your vehicle has a mandatory safety recall. And for the consumer, for you and me, it's just a massive hassle.
It's a huge disruption.
Right. It's a disruption to our daily routine. But I want to flip the perspective for a second.
Yeah.
If you step inside the auto dealership itself, you might think they love these notices, right? Because, well, it guarantees foot traffic.
You would think so, yeah.
But inside those walls, that exact same piece of mail is widely viewed as this low-margin, frustrating warranty chore that just, clogs up their service lanes.
Yeah, it creates this really bizarre lose-lose scenario.
Right.
Like the customer doesn't want to be there, and the service department is often just quietly dreading the appointment.
Which brings us to our topic today. We are diving into a really fascinating piece of source material. It's an excerpt from an industry white paper titled Turning Automotive Recalls into Strategic Relationship Campaigns. And our mission for this deep dive is to completely dismantle the myth that recalls are just these annoying administrative tasks.
Which is such a necessary paradigm shift, honestly.
Yeah.
Because the way most dealerships currently handle these campaigns is fundamentally broken. I mean, they are treating these safety recalls as a simple appointment grab.
Right, it's just transactional.
It is purely transactional. When you look closely at the data in this white paper, what we're actually looking at is a massive, completely untapped trust, retention, and customer reactivation campaign that's just hiding in plain sight.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand how to fix this incredibly misunderstood world of automotive recall campaigns, we first have to understand the fairy tale that dealerships are being sold by their own marketing vendors.
Oh, the fairy tale is a great way to put it, because vendors, they package these recall outreach campaigns into a very neat, frictionless pitch.
Right.
They approach the dealership management and they tell them, hey, you have thousands of customers in your database with open safety recalls.
Just sitting there.
Exactly. Give us the list, we will identify them, we will contact them, and they will schedule service. It sounds flawless on a spreadsheet,
Well, on paper, it's perfect.
Right. The customer comes in, the technician performs the repair, the manufacturer pays the dealership for the warranty claim, and the vendor gets all the credit for driving the traffic.
It's pitched as this perfect little conveyor belt.
Yeah, exactly. But the reality inside a living, breathing dealership is incredibly messy. I mean, the conveyor belt snaps almost immediately.
Yeah, the sources highlight how quickly that breakdown happens. Customers don't always answer the phone or reply to the text messages in the first place.
Right, of course not.
And when they finally do connect, the specific parts for that recall might be on national backorder. They might not even be available yet.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. Or the dealership's appointment calendar is already jam-packed with higher priority work. And then you have to consider the service department technician.
Oh, yeah. The techs.
Right. Because they are generally paid on commission or some kind of flat rate system. And they often really resent recall work because it pays a lower warranty rate.
Yeah, a bay tied up with a low-paying software update is a bay that isn't doing a highly profitable brake job or, a transmission service.
Exactly. So add in a centralized business development center, the call center team dialing hundreds of numbers a day, with absolutely zero context about the customer's personal history with the dealership.
It's a recipe for internal friction.
Complete friction. And that inevitably trickles down to the customer experience. The campaign might technically generate a service appointment on paper, but it generates zero long-term value. It really reminds me of a genuinely bad first date.
Oh, how so?
Well, the dealership puts all this time, money, and vendor energy into just convincing the person to show up and sit down at the restaurant table. They think the entire goal is simply securing the reservation.
Right.
They completely ignore the reality that once a person actually sits down, you have to be interesting, attentive, and build a meaningful connection. You can't just stare at them across the table, mentally check a box and say, date achieved.
That is a perfect analogy. And, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that hyper-focus on the transaction is exactly what makes this a strategic failure. When dealerships only measure the success of a campaign by the sheer volume of appointments booked, they are blinding themselves to the actual opportunity.
Right, because getting a vehicle into the service bay is notoriously difficult anyway.
It is. And a recall provides this rare manufacturer-subsidized excuse to get that vehicle on a lift.
Right.
A technician can inspect it, they can identify necessary maintenance that the customer actually needs, check the overall condition, and crucially, they can reconnect with a customer who might have defected to an independent neighborhood mechanic like 3 years ago.
It's a massive missed opportunity. But, the breakdown inside the dealership is really only half the story here. We also have to look at why the customer is failing to engage with these campaigns in the first place.
Right, the customer side of it.
Yeah, because the prevailing assumption in the automotive industry seems to be that customers ignore recall messages simply because they don't care, or they are just too lazy to schedule the appointment.
Which is what a lot of managers think.
Exactly. But white papers suggest otherwise. But wait, I want to push back on this logic for a second. If an automaker sends out a notice saying, your vehicle might catch fire or your brakes might fail, and the customer throws it in the trash, apathy seems like the most logical explanation. How is it not just consumer laziness?
I get why you'd think that, but it's really because of the cognitive load the word recall carries. It comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of customer psychology.
Okay, go on.
The word recall does not create apathy. It creates immediate, overwhelming anxiety.
Anxiety, yes.
When a customer hears recall, their brain doesn't just register a simple to-do list item like getting an oil change.
Right.
It triggers a barrage of immediate, highly stressful questions like, is my car safe to put my kids in tomorrow morning?
Oh, wow.
Is this going to somehow cost me money? Are the parts even available? Or am I going to be left stranded without a vehicle for 3 weeks?
Right. How long will I be sitting in a waiting room?
Exactly. Or even, wait, didn't I already get a notice about this last year?
Yeah, the confusion is real.
And that anxiety leads to decision paralysis. When people are overwhelmed by unknowns, their default coping mechanism is often just avoidance.
They just ignore it.
Right. And look at how most dealerships respond to that avoidance. They send a generic, automated text blast that says something along the lines of, your vehicle may have an open recall scheduled today.
Which answers absolutely none of the logistical questions causing the anxiety in the first place.
None of them.
But if you try to answer all those questions, the cost, the safety, parts availability, timeline, doesn't the marketing message become this massive wall of text?
That's the fear, yeah.
Because usually, marketing thrives on getting straight to the point. If I'm skimming a text message, a dense paragraph of logistical details might just make me delete it even faster.
And that is the exact trap marketing vendors fall into. They mistake brevity for clarity.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, a short message creates a knowledge gap, and the customer fills that gap with their own worst-case scenarios.
Right, the anxiety takes over.
Exactly. So contrast that short, vague message with a well-crafted one. Imagine getting a text that says, there may be an open safety recall on your vehicle. The repair is performed at absolutely no cost to you, and our service team can check parts availability and appointment times before you come in.
Wow, yeah, that completely diffuses the tension.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, because highlighting no cost to you and offering to check availability removes the fear of the unknown. It positions the dealership not as a trap trying to lure them in, but as a helpful local expert guiding them through a manufacturer's mistake.
Precisely. Recall marketing should never try to be clever or catchy, and it should certainly never use fear tactics to scare the customer into the service drive.
No, definitely not.
It must be brutally clear and empathetic. You are trying to reduce confusion, not generate a panic response.
Okay, but resolving that anxiety with great messaging actually creates a massive new vulnerability for the business, right?
How so?
Well, if you successfully convince a highly anxious person to trust you and drive to your location, your execution better be flawless.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if the internal operations aren't ready for them when they arrive, the goodwill from that marketing is instantly destroyed.
Yes. One of the fastest ways to permanently burn a customer is what the industry calls the parts problem.
Oh.
Imagine a customer takes a half day off work. They arrange a ride or a babysitter. They arrive at the service lane, only to have the staff tell them the specific actuator or sensor for their recall isn't actually in stock.
Oh, that's brutal.
Right. The call center booked the appointment without ever verifying the inventory.
This sounds exactly like a restaurant running a massive, expensive, citywide promotion for a new signature dish, getting a line out the door, but completely forgetting to tell the kitchen staff or order the ingredients.
That is exactly what it is.
The marketing team succeeded, but the operational failure just alienated 100 potential regular customers.
Exactly. Or consider the capacity problem.
What's that?
Well, the call center might schedule 50 recall appointments for a Tuesday morning without checking the physical capacity of the service lane. Yeah, the lane gets overloaded, the technicians fall behind, and a software update that should take 45 minutes takes 4 hours.
And the customer is just sitting in the waiting room watching the clock.
Right. Their trust is severely damaged.
So if the call center is blindly booking these appointments from a spreadsheet, and the technicians are just focused on turning wrenches as fast as possible, the only person standing in the crossfire who can actually salvage the customer experience is the service advisor greeting them in the drive.
Without a doubt. The service advisor is the absolute MVP of the entire campaign.
The MVP.
Yeah. Dealership management often believes the campaign concludes when the appointment is locked into the calendar. But in reality, the strategic campaign begins the exact second that customer pulls their vehicle into the service drive.
Yeah, the sources outline a very specific choreography for the advisor. They must be prepared to proactively explain exactly what the recall entails, confirm out loud that it costs nothing, provide a realistic timeline for the repair, and explain what else the technician will be inspecting while the vehicle is in the air.
It's a lot to manage.
It is. And if the advisor is rushed or stressed or treats the customer like a nuisance who is just there for free warranty work, the customer leaves with absolutely no emotional connection to the store.
None. They become a ghost in the system. They arrived, they received their free repair, and they will go right back to their independent mechanic for their next oil change.
Wow. So getting the customer through the lane without a logistical meltdown is really just baseline survival.
Exactly. It's just the bare minimum.
Extracting actual business value and loyalty from that visit is a totally different science, because every customer pulling in is at a vastly different stage in their ownership journey.
And what's fascinating here is how often businesses treat their entire database as a single monolith.
Like everyone is exactly the same.
Right. But a modern recall campaign must heavily utilize the dealership's CRM, their customer relationship management system.
Okay.
This is the digital brain of the dealership that tracks every interaction, purchase, and service visit. You have to segment that data to be effective.
Meaning, you have to treat different people differently based on their history.
Exactly.
Like a customer who bought a brand new car from you 9 months ago and is coming in for a simple computer flash requires a completely different conversation than a customer driving an 8-year-old vehicle who hasn't stepped foot in your service department since 2019.
Exactly. Let's break those segments down because it's important. Active, loyal customers simply need a message that reinforces trust and respects their time.
Because they already know you.
Right. They are already spending money with you. The goal is just to handle the recall smoothly. But lost customers, the ones who haven't been in for years, they need a reactivation message.
Okay.
The recall is just an icebreaker to reestablish the relationship and remind them of your amenities.
That makes sense. Now, the white paper also mentions high mileage owners and lease customers as specific segments.
Yeah. So high mileage owners are entering the phase where major components start failing. A recall visit is the perfect time for a transparent repair versus replace conversation.
Oh, that's smart.
And lease customers, well, they have a built-in expiration date on their vehicle, so their messaging should be tied to their specific place in that ownership cycle, discussing their equity position or end-of-lease options.
Yeah, but isn't there a really fine line here?
What do you mean?
I just want to challenge the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
How does a dealership bring up a trade-in evaluation or new sales options during a safety recall without it instantly feeling like a sleazy bait and switch?
I see.
Because if I bring my car in because the airbags might be faulty, and a salesperson immediately corners me asking what it'll take to put me in a new vehicle today, I'm going to grab my keys and walk out.
You're completely right. Aggressively pivoting to sales is a massive mistake. It destroys the credibility the messaging just works so hard to build.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the dealership should ignore the fact that the customer might actually want a new car. It is entirely about the approach. You do not say, "Are you looking to trade your car in today?"
So how does an advisor actually pull off that pivot without sounding like they're reading a high-pressure script?
The approach has to be soft, strictly optional, and framed as a convenience.
A convenience.
Yes. The advisor says something like,
While your vehicle is here in the bay for the recall, we can also provide you with an updated trade value or show you what your options look like if you've been thinking about upgrading. No pressure at all. Just let me know if you'd like us to run the numbers while you wait.
Oh, I like that. While your vehicle is here.
Yeah.
That is a subtle but incredibly powerful pivot
It really is.
because it respects the primary reason they came in. It frames the appraisal as an added convenience to save them a trip later, not a trap.
Exactly. Credibility and helpfulness sell infinitely more vehicles over time than high-pressure tactics.
Definitely.
And even if the customer declines to look at new cars, simply having them physically present is a massive data cleaning opportunity for the CRM.
Just having them in the building.
Right. The dealership can verify current mileage, confirm if the customer actually still owns the vehicle, update their email and mobile number, and politely find out where they've been getting their routine maintenance done.
So they're gathering intel.
Exactly. Even if that customer spends $0 that day, the dealership's database just became exponentially smarter and more accurate.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If a dealership actually implements all of this, the empathetic messaging, the flawless operational handoff, the careful segmentation of their CRM, they need a completely new set of metrics to determine if the strategy is actually working.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you aren't just counting the raw number of repair orders generated, how does a service manager actually measure success on a Friday afternoon?
You have to fundamentally rewire your key performance indicators. If management only asks, how many recall repair orders did we process this month? They're wearing blinders.
Right.
They have to start measuring the broader relationship ecosystem, like how many previously lost customers were successfully reactivated,
Yeah.
how many contact records in the CRM were updated with fresh data, how many customer pay jobs like tires or alignments were approved alongside the free recall work, how many vehicles were appraised by the sales team.
So it's measuring the ripple effect across the entire business, not just the initial splash in the service lane.
Exactly. And the documentation of that ripple effect is vital. The white paper contrasts a poor CRM entry with a highly detailed one, and it is incredibly telling.
Oh, let's hear it.
So a bad note left by a rushed call center agent simply says, customer interested in recall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which gives the service advisor absolutely nothing to work with when the customer pulls in.
Nothing. But a strong, strategic CRM note details the entire landscape. It would read, customer responded to SMS outreach, confirmed they are the second owner of the vehicle. Current mileage is at 85,000. Verified parts are in stock. Customer declined an appraisal today, but asked for quotes on new tires.
See, that note is a strategic roadmap.
It really is.
It gives the advisor the exact context they need to make the customer feel known, valued, and anticipated the second they step out of their car.
Right?
But to get that level of engagement and data, a single email blast isn't going to cut it.
No, definitely not. The most successful campaigns use a multi-channel approach to reduce friction.
Multi-channel meaning
Coordinating email, SMS text messaging, direct mail, updates on the dealership's Google business profile, and even targeted social media ads.
that sounds like a lot.
It is, but the goal isn't to blast the customer with the same loud, annoying message everywhere they look. The goal is to ensure that whenever the customer's anxiety subsides and they are finally ready to schedule, the option is immediately accessible on whatever platform they happen to be using at that moment.
Right. It's about removing every possible barrier to entry. And the white paper is careful to note that recall campaigns are just one piece of a comprehensive fixed operations strategy,
Yes.
meaning the overall marketing plan for the parts and service departments. Recalls shouldn't be the entire playbook. They sit alongside seasonal tire inspections, winterization campaigns, and warranty expiration notices. They're just a specific trigger within a much larger ecosystem of customer care.
That's a great way to frame it.
So what does this all mean? If we pull all these threads together, the difference between the old way and the new way is stark.
Very stark.
A bad recall campaign blasts customers with vague, anxiety-inducing messages. It treats their visit like an operational burden, gives the staff no context, and allows the customer to leave without ever strengthening the relationship.
Yeah, a total waste.
But a strategic campaign educates the consumer. It builds trust by answering the hard questions up front. It coordinates parts and schedules seamlessly to respect the customer's time. It updates the dealership's digital brain, and it opens the door to future conversations without resorting to pressure. The recall itself is just the excuse to reach out. The relationship is the actual reason the interaction matters.
That is the core takeaway for you listening right now. Whether you are running a large retail operation, working in a marketing department, or you're simply a consumer who occasionally gets those urgent red-stamped notices in the mail. Understanding this hidden machinery, the profound difference between surviving a transaction and cultivating a relationship, it completely changes how you view customer service, operational execution, and brand loyalty.
It really transforms a massive operational headache into one of the most powerful retention tools available.
It does. And this raises an important question to leave you with today. If a business can take a mandatory negative factory defect, literally an admission that the product they sold you is broken, and strategically engineer it into a powerful loyalty-building lifecycle moment, what mandatory chores or negative touchpoints in your own industry could be completely flipped into a strategic relationship campaign?